Hi, I'm glad you're here. I'm Dr. Jen Bradley, a psychologist with more than 30 years of experience in mental health and the founder of Evolve Integrative Wellness. On this channel, I focus on After the Noise, a community for women who are navigating the emotional and psychological side of GLP-1 treatment. Because the medication changes your body. What nobody talks about is everything it changes inside: your relationship with food, your sense of identity, your mental and emotional world. That's what we're here for. I want to talk today about something that doesn't get nearly enough attention when women start a GLP-1 medication. Not the weight loss, not the side effects, something that happens before any of that, in the very first moment you're alone with the medication. You filled the prescription, you came home, you opened the box, and then you stared at the pen. Where do you inject? Will it hurt? What if you do it wrong? Will it even work? You're holding something that feels too important to get wrong, and nobody actually showed you what to do with it. Not really. Maybe there was a pamphlet, maybe a 2-minute conversation at the pharmacy, but in that moment, alone in your kitchen or your bathroom, you were on your own. That is where the overwhelm begins. Not with the side effects, not with figuring out what to eat, but with that very first step. And then, if you're like most women I talk to, the questions don't stop there. They multiply. What can I eat? Why does everything make me nauseous? How much protein do I actually need? Am I drinking enough water? Should I be exercising? What kind? How do I know if I'm doing any of this right? I want to give you a framework for understanding what's happening when all of those questions hit at once, because there's actually a name for it, and knowing the name helps. It's called cognitive load. Cognitive load is the total amount of mental effort your working memory is carrying at any given moment. Every unanswered question, every new skill you're trying to learn, every decision you haven't made yet, it all takes up space. And your brain has a limit. When you push past that limit, you don't think clearly, you don't retain information well, and everything feels harder than it should. Starting a GLP-1 medication doesn't change one thing in your life. It changes nearly everything, simultaneously and without a manual. You're learning to inject yourself. You're managing physical side effects. You're rethinking how you eat, what you eat, how much you eat, and how fast. You're being told you need to prioritize protein and hydration and resistance training all at once from the beginning. Each of those things is learnable. I want to be clear about that. But together, all at once, while your body is adjusting to a medication that is actively reshaping your relationship with food, it is a lot. And the fact that you're overwhelmed is not a sign that you're doing it wrong. It's a completely predictable response to being handed something genuinely complex with almost no support. Here's the part that I think matters most and that I don't hear said often enough. The gaps in your knowledge right now are not gaps in your capability. They are gaps in the support you were given. Your doctor had a few minutes with you, maybe less. The healthcare system handed you a powerful medication and treated that as the finish line. It wasn't. It was the starting line. And you've been trying to run a race nobody fully explained to you. That is not a personal failure. That is a system failure. So, what do you do with that? You can't change how short your appointment was. You can't fix a healthcare system that underprepares women for what comes after the prescription. But you can change how you're relating to the overwhelm, and that is entirely within your control. Here's what I want you to take away from this video. You do not have to learn all of this today. You do not have to have it figured out by next week. This medication is not going anywhere. The learning curve does not have to be conquered all at once. This is a marathon, and you are still in the very first mile. The single most useful thing you can do right now is stop trying to hold the entire list in your head and start treating it like the manageable, learnable sequence it actually is. I send a weekly email to the women in this community, and this week's email goes one step further. It gives you one specific exercise for getting that list out of your head, identifying the one thing that actually needs your attention right now, and giving everything else a conscious, deliberate rain check. Not because the rest doesn't matter, it does, but because your brain works better when it isn't trying to solve 12 problems simultaneously. The link to join is in the description. When you subscribe, this email will be waiting for you.